Welcome back to Down the Track. I have with me my co-host Abrar Aziz as usual, and today we will be previewing the India versus Sri Lanka series. It's I think only been 3 weeks or a month since India played, where it feels like a year. They're finally back on the pitch. A lot of drama off the pitch in terms of COVID, the bio bubbles, and everything. But it was more from the Sri Lankan side of things. This Indian team is ready to go. Whereas in England, there's other issues going on with the Indian team, but this Indian team looks like a proper unit ready to go. Our initial thoughts going into this series.
Yeah, like I said even before, when we discussed about this before as well, I'm more looking forward to this India Sri Lanka series versus more than the Test matches in England
No
because
way, I can't
I
have
think
that.
I for me personally, I think like these guys I feel like there's a little more hunger. There's a little bit more like want to kind of prove themselves and make it the big stage. They all understand that they're India B team per se, so they don't want that tag on them. They want to go ahead and become that India A side. There are some places for grabs now with all the noise that Virat has brought up with the Pujara's position. There's doubts on Rahane's position. The Gill is injured. There's some things going on over there. So there's some things going on over there in the senior Indian squad, which makes me feel that all is not well. But I think that this Indian side, the India B side, which is playing Sri Lanka, raring to go. I feel like they're a unit that's ready. That's just going out there to prove a point. And they have the talisman Rahul Dravid behind the scenes. It really helps always, of course.
But would you actually consider it a B side, considering that you have the likes of Hardik Pandya playing, you have the likes of Bhuvneshwar Kumar, Shikhar Dhawan, Ishan Kishan. These guys will probably get a place in the 11 anyway going into the World Cup. Even the spinners, the likes of Chahal or even Rahul Chahar, these guys will probably play in the 11. So apart from a few players, I think half of these players will be playing, and the other guys can also contribute and make a place for themselves. But apart from Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, and then the two bowlers Shami and Bumrah, those are 4 or 5 players. The rest, the players are going to come from this team, from this series.
I agree. I think so like let me rephrase it a little bit. So what I probably mean is that the places are up for grabs, right? In the World Cup, the World Cup's coming very soon, the T20 World Cup. So this is going to be like a what do you call it, like
Rehearsal.
rehearsal for the World Cup, and for them
Yeah.
to, because 4 or 5 spots are already cemented. There's no doubt about the fact that Rohit Sharma is going, Virat Kohli is going, Bumrah is going, Shami is going. For that matter, Hardik Pandya is probably a surety as well. The likes of KL Rahul is probably still going. There are 7 or 8 spots that are solid. But then they have about 5 or 6 spots that are left that they really need to that are up for grabs. So if a good performance in a series like this, when the talismans are not available, will really go out. If anyone can go ahead and start to lead by example over here. Let's say someone like Surya Kumar Yadav can just take the tournament up by fire and score a century, a couple of half centuries or something. Then he almost cements a spot, which is not a surety right now with the Surya Kumar Yadav. Because there's a lot of competition for Indian spots at this position.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out, and that's why I'm looking forward to this. It's really a litmus test for these guys, and I want to see how they perform.
Yeah, for sure, 100%. And if you just look at the positions, I don't know if you have your idea 11, but if you just go positions, let's start with the openers. Which two batsmen would you like to see opening the batting in this series?
I think for me the whole team is almost more or less sorted, because it's a pretty simple setup except for the middle order. For me, middle order seems like a little bit of a problem, but we can go ahead and like go through with that. But for me, it's easy. Openers are easy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be Dhawan and Shaw, because Shaw has come out and since the dropper from the Indian team has started scoring some significant amount of runs, like as if he's taken it to heart. And Dhawan, of course, captain, so he's going to make that spot. And I think he's one of those guys that really needs to get a few games and get a few runs, so that he can kind of cement that spot in the T20 side as well.
Yep, and then I'm assuming we'll go
Surya Kumar Yadav,
Surya Kumar one down. And then if you look at the number 4 spot, there's a few options
Sanju.
here. There's Sanju Samson, there is Manish Pandey, your favorite player. Ishan Kishan can potentially play at 5 as well.
Yeah.
So if you look at 4, let's say between Samson and Manish Pandey, who would you play?
For me, Sanju.
Sanju Samson, class act. The only thing with him is consistency. Again,
Consistency.
he gets that 100 and then suddenly goes to sleep. Whereas Manish Pandey has got plenty of chances as well. He's been on the bench as well with the first Indian 11, but just hasn't got to perform. But what are your thoughts on Yeah, what are your thoughts on Manish
Yeah,
Pandey?
like I said, like Manish Pandey, unfortunately, he's been in there and thereabouts. He's, like you said, gotten opportunities to cement a spot, but he hasn't been able to convert those chances into like big scoring runs. Whenever he's gotten a chance, except for a few games, I don't remember an innings that is it comes out to mind when you think of Manish Pandey. He's always been one of those kinds that has the ability, has the talent, but has never really portrayed it on the big stage, unfortunately. So we've seen glimpses of that great batsman that he can be, but unfortunately, he hasn't done enough for me to warrant a position even in the B side now.
Yep, and then I'm assuming five Ishan Kishan, six Hardik Pandya. You good with
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair.
And then seven, are you playing Krunal or are you playing somebody else?
No, I think that's the only option on it, honestly, at this point. Oh, not. I don't want to be rude, but I think Krishnappa Gautam is also an option. But I think Krunal has a little bit more experience now, and
Yeah.
he brings in those few runs. He's a little bit more of a nurtured all rounder and a little bit more experience. Although I think he's a better bowler than a batsman, in my personal opinion. And I think Gautam is probably a little bit of a better batsman than a bowler. So I'm probably just going because I feel like if Hardik's not going to bowl, we need that extra bowler to kind of just make sure that he can bowl in those 4 overs or the 10 overs, depending on what format it is. So I'd go Krunal at 7 for sure.
And then I know 100% you're going Bhuvaneshwar, but then after
Absolutely.
that, the other two remaining bowling slots.
So for me, I think because Sri Lankan pitches, I'd go with two spinners. I'd go with Chahal and Chahar. I want to give Kuldeep a chance, but I think that these two have done enough for me to give them a little bit of shade
Wouldn't you
above.
go maybe Chakravarti just to get a different kind of thing?
Ooh,
Because
yeah, yeah,
instead
yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
instead
yeah.
of two leg spinners, maybe just
For
get the ball
sure,
to
for
turn the
sure.
other way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a good idea. So maybe Chahal and Chakravarti, I think, would probably be my options at 9 and 10. And then at 11, I want to take Deepak Chahar, but my problem with Deepak Chahar is very similar to
To
Bhuvi.
Bhuvaneshwar.
So
Yeah,
it kind of makes a little bit of difference, and I want to see how that youngster, the left arm Rajasthan bowler, his name is not coming in my mind, but Sakaria,
Sarkar. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So I want to see how he performs in the big stage
yeah.
because he seems like a bowler that's with a good head on his shoulder, So I'd like to see if he can perform on the big stage in the Indian colours. I think he did well for Rajasthan in the few games that he played. So I'd love to see
Definitely.
if he can really go out there and take his game to the next level.
No, 100%. So, would you consider Saini? Maybe they might play Saini instead of those
I
guys, just to get a bit of pace
pace.
and be a bit different. Yeah.
I agree,
Uh,
but the only reason I was thinking Sakaria is because he also is a little bit different because right arm left arm combination of in the fast bowling department, and I think Sakaria can bowl it a little fast as well. He has the pace in him. But I think if they want to go with one proper all in out and out pace bowler with 145 clicks every ball that he bowls, I think Saini is a good option as well for sure.
Saini is a good option as well. Puneet Singh Chahar and Varun. I think Rahul Chahar had a better IPL, but I just feel that I think the team management
Experience
is
of
looking at,
Chahal.
yeah, they're looking at Yuzvendra Chahal as their main spinner going into the World Cup because he has that experience and he's played in the big matches before as well. He's played in the 2019 World Cup, so I think they'll just go with him in that case. But I'm sure that Rahul Chahar will get a turn in this series as well as the series progresses. Also, one thing you have to look at, even in the World Cup, you talked about Kohli's going to go for sure, Rohit Sharma's going to go for sure, but there's always going to be injuries, there's going to be COVID issues, there's going to be a lot of problems going into that World Cup
Absolutely.
for every single team. So all these guys need to be on their toes. It doesn't, whether it be Manish Pandey, whether it be anybody else, they just need to be on their toes. They might have to replace anybody. You might not know. Bhuvneshwar and Saini might be opening the bowling if Shami and Bumrah are not fit in the first game or something like that going into
Yeah,
the World Cup.
yeah, for
So
sure.
everyone has to be on their toes. This is the kind of situation where the first 15 is not guaranteed because of the current circumstances.
Yeah.
I feel, but yeah, your player to watch out for in this series.
Suryakumar Yadav.
I'm so surprised. I thought you were going to say Rahul Dravid.
How am I going to say
Yes.
Rahul Dravid? For sure, look,
Surya,
my coach to watch out for is definitely Rahul Dravid. But for me,
yeah, Rahul
Surya
Dravid.
Kumar
From
Yadav.
Sri Lanka side of things, I'm not really sure. They have a lot of problems going on. They've changed their captain as well. It's going to be interesting to see. I think as the series progresses, we'll probably find out how they're going to play because also, I don't know what the crowd situation is there. If there are crowds there, it might give them a bit of a boost, but it's going to be very challenging.
It's very unfortunate that Sri Lankan cricket has dropped so hard. Like we discussed in our last podcast as well. After the 2011 World Cup, where they were finalists and they were consistent from '96 to 2011, always been there and thereabouts in the final situation, semi-finals, finals, and there and thereabouts. And it's just to drop so significantly in the past 10 years, where someone like an Afghanistan who's very recently come into the limelight has taken over a permanent spot in the World Cup, and they still have to play the qualifiers. We would never expect that something like that from a Sri Lanka, and it's very unfortunate. Like you said, there's a lot of issues. The board, the COVID, there was some COVID bubble breaks and stuff like that, and players are not happy. Honestly, I'll be very honest with you. Half the people in that Sri Lankan squad I've never even heard of. I mean, of course, I don't follow Sri Lankan domestic cricket.
Much
but
like that England team as well,
exactly.
which played the one day. Yeah.
At least you knew a few of those guys. You knew an Overton. You knew Saqib Mahmood. You knew of course Ben Stokes. But here, even the new very very few, like 3 or 4 players that I've really heard of. Everyone else is just someone I've never even heard of, even remotely. So
True.
except for the fact that their names are a little similar sometimes, but that's about it.
No, 100%. I agree with you there. Puneet is asking your thoughts on Agarkar's statement on Dhawan. Even if he performs in all 6 games, he won't get a chance in the World Cup. Unquote. Isn't that unfair for a player also being orange cap holder in the IPL?
I think so. I think the problem I think there is that there's a kind of stubbornness in the India A squad, the top squad, with Virat and Ravi Shastri making all these important decisions, and they tend to be a little stubborn with their decisions sometimes. So I feel like the likes of Rohit Sharma and KL Rahul are their opening slot positions, and they sometimes they're very.
I don't even think that's the case. I think it's going to be Kohli and Rohit Sharma.
Oh yeah, Kohli. Right,
because you know what the problem is. I'll tell you the problem over here is, right. You can play Shikhar Dhawan, you play Kohli at one down, but then your middle order batsman is going to go, and then fans will say, why didn't you pick Surya Kumar or Ishan Kishan? Why did you drop him? So there's going to be one player to miss out. Now they have to decide depending on form, depending on the conditions. They'll have to pick that player. I think they can go either way. You can open with Dhawan, you can open with Kohli and Rohit. They have to take that call and then go with it. That's what you can do. You base it on form, you base it on conditions, everything like that, and then you take it from there. That's what I feel they have to do. Because if they do go with Dhawan, then that means someone from the middle order is going to miss out as well. You have to, and then Surya Kumar drops as well, right? Surya Kumar likes playing one down. That's Virat Kohli's position if Dhawan plays. So if Virat Kohli is pushed up, Surya Kumar can play in his position. So there are a lot of factors that you have to take into consideration, and form is a big factor. So if Shikhar Dhawan is killing it in the first all these 6 matches, then you have to consider him in the 11. It's not just about the squad. You'll have to.
If he continues doing a little bit well in the IPL, continues in the IPL as well, I think that he probably will have a very strong say come the World Cup in the October.
Yeah, and these things will always happen. If he plays, you'll say, why'd you play him? He's getting old now. You should have played a youngster. And if you don't play him and you lose, then you'll say, why didn't you play him in such great form? So it goes either way. You have to take the call before the tournament, your gut call, and then stick with it, and then back whatever you've done, basically.
I agree.
The problem with this team is that they make too many changes, whereas I feel that you have to try to back it a bit longer in that sense.
I agree.
Yeah, and series prediction. I think I know what you're gonna say.
I'm gonna say 3-0 dominant and 3-0 dominant.
So 6-0 in total. You don't see, but a couple. If Sri Lanka do win the first game or second game like that, then it'll be interesting. I think it'll be fun in that sense.
To watch a kind of a decider per se.
Because this Indian, and I would really want to see how this Indian team gels. How does Shikhar Dhawan lead? His captaincy in Sunrisers is kind of flaky at that time, but he was very young. He's much more mature now. He's seen the game. He's played in big matches, so I'm sure he'll use his experience.
And he has the likes of Bhuvi to help out. He has the likes of Sanju Samson, who's now had a season of captaincy under his belt as well. There are a few players that are a little bit more mature now. Hardik Pandya is there who can give him insights, and of course Rahul Dravid from the back will probably strategize everything pretty well. So shouldn't be a problem over there.
One last question. We will discuss it further in our next episodes. But the style that West Indies are playing, that England are playing, even England to that extent, against Pakistan, they just kept losing wickets even though they had the run rate in check. But eventually they lost. But the style these two teams are playing in, that style is not India's style. But do you think it's going to be the more effective one going into the World Cup being in UAE?
See, I'm telling you, it's going to be very hard to mitigate that kind of a style. So if India goes out, it'll start a little slow and everything. They'll always be behind the 8 ball. So it's going to be
Because India,
difficult for them.
Pakistan, even Australia to a certain extent, like they
Definitely.
have that kind of style. Like
Yeah. They have a little bit of settle in and then kind of blow
yeah,
up. But West Indies in England from ball one, they just go bam, man. It's unbelievable how they go, and they exude a sense of superiority when they do that kind of thing. Whoever it is, they kind of whoever the batsmen are, whoever the players are, they tend to the opposition team is they tend to have a little bit of a little bit of a scare when they play. You see an Australian side. This is not a weak Australian side per se, but how they're being thrashed by West Indies at this point in time. A Pakistan side who's been performing decently suddenly goes out and gets hammered by an England B or C side for that matter. So this is the kind of the kind of that style is only these two teams have mastered it so far, and these two teams are the favorites going into the World Cup for me for sure.
going to the World Cup. Yeah, and we'll have to see the pitches and how that plays out. But yeah, I agree with you. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll catch you after the game tomorrow, hopefully, and throughout the series. And
Yep,
enjoy the series and all the cricket going on. And I'll catch you soon. Thank you so much.
looking forward to it, man.